Smooth 98.1. Now, this morning, we're going to be looking at something really interesting because last Friday, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group held an economic dialogue with a 6-point agenda for improving matters in Nigeria. That's our focus on the show this morning. As usual, you can be part of the show simply by sending a message to us on WhatsApp 0809 4440981. On Twitter, it's Smooth981FM. Feel free to tweet at us, Smooth981FM on Twitter. And we're streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth981FM Lagos. This morning, joining us for the next 15 minutes to have this conversation is Onome Ohwovoriole, the an business analyst with Money Africa. Good morning, Onome.
Hi, Victor. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Onome, on Friday, of course, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group held an important economic dialogue, and then they discussed 6-point agenda for improving matters in Nigeria. In fact, I'll just go ahead to talk about the 6 quickly. That's a non-inclusive economic growth, macroeconomic stability, infrastructure deficit, human capital deficit and skills gap, national security, and weak economic competitiveness. How do we achieve, inclusive economic growth in Nigeria? Going through all these points on the agenda.
Okay. I think there are 2 critical things we need to fix and things we can fix somewhat quickly, right? The first is security. In fact, security is the biggest headache in Nigeria. There's a lot of insecurity around the land. We need to fix that. It's been a mixed success for this administration. You might say, okay, first term had a handle of it. Second term, things are not as good as it is. I mean, we have issues in the southeast, we have people around the northeast and partly in the northwest. So we need to fix that. So without that, you can't do much. The second is much long term. Don't see the immediate benefits, but it's also necessary. We need to fix education. In fact, we need to burn down the building and build a new one when it comes to education. I mean, I think it's quite sad that, how many months has ASU been on strike? 2, 3, 4? For a country that is seriously thinking of inclusive growth, you can't do that with education, because education, healthcare, those are the ways by which you can lift people out of poverty. And ultimately, that's what the growth is about. It's about lifting a large number of people out of poverty. And we've not done that in the last 8 years or so.
Interesting perspective you're bringing into the conversation this morning. But if you don't have inclusive growth in an economy, will only the rich benefit?
I'm not sure at the moment. It's an interesting question, because what's your definition of rich in Nigeria? I mean, by Nigerian standards, you're rich. Yes, we're all rich, right?
What you mean?
Yeah, we're all rich. Yeah, we're rich.
Because we own mobile phones or can drive a car. Is that what you mean?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You are in the niche. You're probably in the niche 10% or less of Nigerians who are comfortable and all that. But if you look at the standard of living, even for the rich in this country, I was a tweet some days ago that, look, you drive your luxury cars or second-hand or third-hand cars on bad roads. You can't go out at night because you're afraid. You are inhaling either petrol from the petrol generator or diesel fumes from the diesel generator. So really, the standard of living is so poor that even for the rich in this country, they're not really living a decent life. But coming specifically, what we have is you have just a high level of economic inequality. So majority of the gains in this country are captured by a really small set of people. And that's not good, because when you have such a level of inequality, you're going to have violence is threatening to escalate, poverty is an issue. So it's a whole Molotov cocktail, right? When you have poverty, you have insecurity, you have violence, they all go hand in hand. So once you can fix one of them, it helps to calm down things in the other sectors. Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the second point on the agenda, which is macroeconomic stability. What does it look like, and is it being able to withstand just withstand some of the shocks that come with this?
So here's the issue with Nigeria. Um, Nigeria needs to decide, what kind of economic philosophy we're pursuing as a nation. Are we a capitalist nation? Are we a socialist nation? Are we a mixed economy? I don't even know. We're somewhere in between all that, but it's not clearly defined. Um, we are an emerging market, so meaning we are a highly unstable country. And when you look at the criteria, what is the definition, or what criteria do you use to determine if a country is stable or not? Look at the exchange rate. The exchange rate is a whole episode of Business Express. You look at inflation. Inflation is spiking everywhere in the world, but even prior to COVID, we have or had double-digit inflation. And these are things that we need to fix by having the right policies. These are things we need to fix, by taking action. Unfortunately, the Nigerian thing of leaving issues till it becomes absolutely painful, then you fix, is something that we are applying to how do we run the economic affairs of this nation. So we need to fix these things. We need to be decisive in how we do things, and we need to decide as a nation what is our philosophy.
So infrastructure deficit is another critical point, in Nigeria. I would like us to talk about how do we close this deficit, and where do we get the money from if we really want to close the infrastructure deficit gap that we're experiencing in Nigeria?
Getting the money isn't an issue, really. It's not an issue. That's probably the easiest thing. But the problem is, and it comes back to the philosophy we apply as a nation.
No, when you say getting the money is not an issue, can elucidate?
It's not an issue. The private sector is more than willing to fund that gap. The government can't do it alone. That's the truth. For the current administration, that's the path they pursue. But there's a limit really to what government can. Government really cannot do heavy lifting when it comes to fixing infrastructure. So private-public partnerships are a better way to go. But the situation whereby I'm a private entity, I sign a 10-year agreement to build, operate, and transfer infrastructure. 3 years down the line, the government looks upon money and decides to cancel the agreement. The government says, hey, you know what? We'll pay you off now. You can go. In that kind of environment, nobody is going to bring out money to fund infrastructure. And that's what's prevalent in this country. I mean, if you look at all the major PPP projects you can think of, you can think of the toll gates. That in some ways you might say was kind of aborted. So citizens complain, the government wakes up, buys out the private firm and takes it over. But in an environment like that, do you really want to fund infrastructure as a private entity? The answer is no. So till we are willing to embrace that model, which is the only way we can really get lots of infrastructure funded in this country. Till we are willing to do so, then we're just going to have this, half-hearted or halfway through effort by the government, and it permeates the entire system, whether it's federal government, state government, local government. We need to embrace that model because that is the only way we can fund these things, and we're not ready to do so as a nation. That's the way I see it.
Okay, so let's look at some messages on WhatsApp. And remember, you can send in your messages to 0809-444-0981. Oganaochukwu says, human capital development is the key to solving unemployment and insecurity. This is why I frown at governors calling themselves infrastructure government. Focus should be more on human capital development. So quickly, let's even talk about that. Let's look at the human capital development and skills gap in Nigeria? Is this problem solved with improving our education sector?
So can I mention the word sexy on morning radio? Am I allowed? Nobody
You
gets
mentioned
that.
already, but let's go on with the
All right.
conversation.
All right. So here's the thing. Human capital development isn't very sexy because it's not immediately visible. So if I'm in government, I do a road, I do a bridge, I pay pensions, I pay regular salaries. I mean, that's such a lowball thing. If I do all that, it's clearly visible. If I take a 7, 8 year old and I give them 7 or 8 years great education, it's going to take a decade probably for the effects of the great education to reflect. Within that period of time, I need something to campaign. I can't campaign on your 8 year old child in 10 years' time is going to be a someone who can compete across the world in terms of education. I can't compete on that. So it's a bit like breaking the coconuts on your head. If you break a coconut on your head, it's it's you don't get the benefits, right? You don't get the water in the coconut. That's what we need to do. And there are very few governments, whether it's national government, as state or local government, there are very few people in government who are willing to take that hard but ultimately much better route. It's not sexy. It's not doesn't win you votes, doesn't win you popularity, but it's necessary. That's what we need to do. So till we are willing to do that as a nation, then you're going to have half-baked graduates. You're going to have students spending more time at home rather than in school, and it starts really even from the basics. Primary education is a mess. Secondary education is a mess. So the bulk of the money goes to funding tertiary education at the federal level. Where you really need to fix is nursery, primary, and secondary.
But
And
what do
that
you make
also,
of our public school, curriculums? Do they need to be revamped?
I don't think the curriculum is issue, even though parts of the curriculum uh, are outdated. But here's the thing. That's the nice thing about education. You can you can work around an outdated curriculum, right? You can
Mm.
work around. So even if you're not going through the whole hog of bringing it down and taking it up again, you can work around that, just by teaching the bare basics properly and on time. That solves things. We're not doing that. So, I mean, you can have a 2022 curriculum and students spend half of the last, say, 4, 5 years at home on
Mm.
strike. What does it fix? It doesn't fix anything,
And maybe before
right?
we go, I want us to touch on two quick points. We're almost out of time. That would be on insecurity. Of course, it's a major talking point and also one of the talking points in the NESG agenda. What's the impact on that on the economy? Can you quickly touch on that for us?
And the impact is quite clear. And I'd use you as an example. The chances are that you probably can't stroll on the night street in VI that I will mention at 2, 3 a.m. safely. VI is a commercial hub. What does that mean? It means that if I can't run a business at 3, 4 a.m. in VI without fear of being jackknifed, that's economic activities that's not happening. If I have to close at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. for safety, or if I have to leave my house at 7 a.m. because by 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. people are getting robbed or people are getting kidnapped in certain parts of the country, you need to be alive, right, to do
Mm.
business.
Mm.
If I'm not sure of being alive or if my life is at risk, I can't do business and the economy is going to suffer. So that's where we are. But
Mm.
again, we need long-term solutions to fix these things. You can't fix insecurity in 2, 3 months in this country. Anybody who
Mm.
says that, you probably need to do soft and hard solutions. Yeah.
All right. But before we go, in 10 seconds, maybe, how can Nigeria become a competitive economy?
Fix everything I said. Fix education, fix security, and embrace the private sector.
We must thank you very much, Onome, for being a part of the conversation. Let's keep the conversation going on Twitter. You can tag us in at Smooth981 FM. Business Express will come back tomorrow right here on this station at 6:30. My name is Victor Pepple. Good morning.
Bye, Victor.
Thank you
Bye.
very